morning, everybody. It's Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. I'm working on my block party. I sound like a robot every single week. Good morning. I'm working on my block party, Jean's Block Party 2021. If you're new to this channel, I suppose I have to say that because you might be wondering what this is all about when I say block 10. We are on block 10. And folks, if you're just tuning in, I'm making a sampler quilt. A little bit different than a traditional sampler quilt. I'm showing beginners how to construct one block. We're up to about week 10, constructing one block or multiples of blocks. And if you're new, you can check out my playlist, Jean's playlist, Jean's Block Party 2021, for introductions of exactly what I'm doing or what I think I'm doing. And the blocks each consecutive week that we have made. But this week's a little bit different. I'm going to get right to it. Our block number 10, which is this one. I have this as like to organize my block numbers. This is my block number 10, and this is a pinwheel block. This is a simple, let me just put that over there. This is a simple 2-grid, right? 4-patch. And we're using half square triangles. You're going to say, oh, we made half square triangles before, where we cut one piece of fabric into the half diagonally. Well, this way, to make our 4 half square triangles, we're making 4 half square triangles at one time. It's a little bit of a trick of the trade, and you'll be thrilled if you cut precisely and if you stitch, obviously, your 1/4 inch. This week, though, for the first time, I'm telling you or asking you or suggesting that it's best for this block that we press these last 2 seams open. We haven't done that. We have pressed either to the dark side, or as I always say, let the fabric tell you where it wants to go, right? But in this case, to get this one intersection, one point there, which has 8 intersecting seams. Not to be frightened of it, because if you go slowly and step by step and keep your dog ears, again, I use my dog ears as a guide to get my perfect 1/4 inch, you will probably get pretty close to near perfect. This isn't quite. I'm 1 or 2 threads off. It's absolutely fine. In my book, that is a perfect, lovely pinwheel. High contrast, because you want to be able to see your pinwheel. Or again, if not, if you just want more of a muted look and you can search for your pinwheel, that's awesome. But I made mine with my K-facet and my black and white dot. So that is our block number 10. Perfect your 1/4 inch seams here as you have been, and this time press your seams open, and hopefully you will have a real ta-da pinwheel moment. So you might have noticed the title of my video was my block number 10 and a recap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you now everything that I have done so far and how my quilt is evolving and my thought process of how we go from here. So ta-da! Here is my quilt so far, and with a little bit of extra, which I'm going to explain to you, which my thought process is. I'm going to put up a picture of, if you're new, of the idea / pattern that I'm following in my head. And again, And again, I don't do written instructions. My videos are my tutorials, are my lessons. You have to watch my thing because I don't write anything down. But in the beginning of this process, to change it up from a regular, simpler sampler quilt that I've done in 2018 and 2019, I'm doing a medallion style quilt. A medallion quilt is a center block here, and then we're building consecutive, pretty much the same exact size borders and blocks as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So as you can see, here are my blocks around my center medallion. Next week, I believe I'm going to have 2 separate videos, so be on the lookout because to get it all in one will be a little bit hard. Next week, I'm going to be concentrating on my large center medallion block, which is going to be a Dresden plate. I will talk to you in depth about the size ruler that I have, and I did print something out that I'm going to share with you from another quilter, and I'll give her credit, is the different rulers. You might not have mine, and the different degrees. I have to read it because I didn't understand it, but no, when you have a certain degree, it will yield more blades for our Dresden plate, but that is to come. I will explain it. But right now, this is the configuration of my blocks. Now, you might be saying, I don't have as many blocks. Or you may have more, because I know quite a lot of you are making multiples of one block that maybe you really enjoy making, which is awesome. This is the configuration for my quilt. Again, here's my block number 10. I just stuck that out there. Now, what I have done is you can see my 16 9 patches around my center medallion. But what I've done, and these are some of our blocks here, I have taken a fabric here that I had with my Cafe facet. I made about 4 or 5 of these. This was a fabric that I'll show you that had a image of a piece of fruit, and I wanted to fussy cut that image. So what I've done is I went back to my simple 4 patch, which was our first number week 1 block, and I fussy cut those images, and that sort of has fleshed out my quilt. I might be using them or I might not, because we are going to be needing quite a few more blocks if you're going to expand your quilt as I am. So next week we are working on our Dresden plate here in the middle. Now I might change it up. A lot of you have made on my Truelove Quilts for You Facebook page, you've actually done your Dresden plate, which is awesome, which is a big block. This is a big block. I might actually, again, sort of flesh it out with, well, this was just an experiment with smaller Dresden plates in the corner, just to sort of, I may do that. And again, I will be showing you how I'll make a smaller template from my actual ruler if I choose to do my 4 corners to soften the quilt up. My quilts turned out very angular, very geometric, and I think the Dresden plate in the middle, as I thought in the very beginning, will soften the whole thing up. So this, we are going to, this is my, so far, the 4 blank corners will have 12-inch blocks, plus some sashing or border. Now, as you can see, I have chosen for next week, I'm not concentrating, the tutorial to follow is for block number 10, which is easy. But this is just a heads up. I've chosen my black and white dot. It's not a black, gray, and white dot, as this is. You can't really tell. This is a pure black dot on white fabric for my center. And then I will be having a border around that, I think. Remember I said we're cutting a 24-inch block and then I'm adding a little bit of a border? I think I'm going to do that. Not quite sure. And I thought, well, I'm going to choose something. I thought maybe I'll choose a black and white stripe. Now this is more of like a ticking fabric. It's not the woven like ticking. It's printed, so it looks like ticking. I quite like that because I want to add a border so you can actually and sashing here. I was experimenting with sashing also. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the dot here or I had an actual solid gray back there also. I'm not quite sure. But for now, and then I thought to border my center block here, maybe I'll really make something pop and do a black and white stripe that size. Now I know that might be a bit too much, and somewhere around here I have even a smaller, maybe something in between. Black and white, not quite as subdued as my ticking, but not quite as maybe Alice in Wonderland as that one. I'm not quite sure. But again, you can see that I want my center medallion to pop, and then the rest to just be an interesting collection of blocks. However, as you notice, I've left a space, as it were, between to my blocks. I'm not going to be sewing my blocks right together. I am going to be using a sashing. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'll use a plain neutral, just a plain, to tone it down a little bit, because again, this is a very, very lively quilt. Now, if you're following along and we get to the point where we've done our center, we've done our 4 blocks, you can finish then. By all means, maybe just put a small border on and have a lovely lap size quilt. That would be awesome. Make a few more blocks, or if you wanted to make some more blocks up here, you could continue it. You don't need to do the 12-inch blocks in the corner. I'm doing the 12-inch blocks in the corner just to break it up a little bit. I believe I'm going to be doing some applique in those blocks, again, to soften it. You could just put a border on. When we get to that point, again, you can refer back to my pattern. I'm going to be doing a small border, and then I'm going to be doing a border all the way around the 4 sides of 4-inch flying geese. Now, our block number 9, we made 2 each blocks of our flying geese, our large 6-inch blocks. We just did them one at a time. We cut the fabrics. Making 4-inch, 4 at a time it's completely different animal and skill than making these flying geese. Again, I'm trying to show you one way to do things and then maybe a shortcut. So let's not let the, I believe it's 64, maybe 69 or something, flying geese, I think that's around, say 70 flying geese, be daunting, because we're going to break it down making 4 at a time. Quite simply, actually. Really quite nice. But that's to come. Don't worry about that. That's for weeks down the road. But again, just a heads up, if you're following along, look at my pattern, my idea of my pattern. It is not a written pattern. It's just my idea, but it's coming along. I quite like it. So this is this is block number 10 that we're working on today. And then again, keep your eye on the lookout for a few pointers and tips and tricks and whatever to make our Dresden plate in the middle. Because again, that's our largest block. Some people are intimidated by Dresden plates, but you didn't need to be if you keep your 1/4-inch seam and you keep pressing it. It's going to be fun. But again, I'm not quite sure what little borders I'm going to be putting on. That, again, I say that might be a bit too carnival-y, but you know me, more is never enough. So anyway, block number 10 to follow. Yeah, I hope you enjoy this. So our block 10, which is a simple 4-patch, not quite as simple because we have an intersecting of seams to make our pinwheel. We start out with 2 5.5-inch squares. That's it. That's all you have to cut. 2 5.5-inch squares. So what we're going to do now is, with the pretty sides together, our perfectly cut 5.5-inch squares, we're going to scratch our squares together. We're going to go over to our machine and we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch around the entire block. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. First of all, I've made sure my machine is running really well. My stitch quality is lovely, as usual. I have scratched together, put together the pretty sides of my fabric together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the very end, and very carefully I'm going to stitch down from end to end a 1/4 inch. Right around the outside of this block. Now I am going to go right to the end, and I'm going to keep my needle down, and I'm going to bring my presser foot up, and I'm just going to pinch and pull the thread, and then just a 1/4 turn, put that thread behind. I'm going to put my presser foot down yet again, and I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch down the other side. I'm going to do this on all 4 sides. I'm going to go right to the end, needle down, presser foot up, pinch so I don't stress that's what we've just sewn. Turn it, put your presser foot down, and stitch. Don't worry about those little threads at the top. Go right to the end. My needle is down, my presser foot is up. I turn it a 1/4 turn, just pinch it, and 1/4 inch yet again. Then I'm going to go right off. Press your foot up, and I'm going to pinch that so I don't stress these corners here. Now I'm going to go over and I'm just going to set these seams. So just off of my sewing machine, I'm just going to set what I've stitched together there, just that seam there. And then I'm going to bring it over to my cutting table, and I'm going to line it up on a line on my cutting table. And I'm going to get my ruler and my rotary cutter, and we are going to be cutting this on the diagonal from point to point. Okay, we've done this before. Let me just move this around like that, because I don't want to shift my fabric when I go to cut it again. So I'm going to put my ruler from corner to corner, just a thread inside to allow for my rotary cutter. We've done this before. The blade of my rotary cutter, we want to cut these really pretty much exact. So hold that, open the rotary cutter, and slice. Close your rotary cutter. This is where we pick up our ruler. These are nice and put together, and we just lay the ruler on the other diagonal, corner to corner. Hold, open it up, and slowly cut. Now in this way, we have made 4 half square triangles. Remember the blocks where we had cut our half square our square to make our half square triangles? In this respect, we have made 4 half square triangles. Now I'm going to go back over to my ironing board, and I'm going to set these seams yet again. Set them like that, and with the dark side up, I'm going to grab the dark side, and I'm going to roll that dark seam up. Now this is on the bias, so you don't want to skew anything, okay? You just want to roll the tip of your iron. You just want to roll that up there and press. Now I am going to give this a nice little spritz with water, like I just did. And I'm going to do that on all 4. And at this point, you see these dog ears. Remember we were talking about the dog ears on a couple blocks back. I'm not going to cut them off yet, because I actually use the dog ears as guides. So just roll that up and press these really well. If you have some starch, absolutely use the starch, because the pinwheel, it's a simple 4 patch, but it's 8 seams that are coming together in the pinwheel. 8. So you want to get them nice and square and nice and flat. Again, just roll that seam up to the dark. A little bit of a spritz. Don't worry about the dog ears yet. Now, I'm going to get my design board, bring this over, and we're going to set out our pinwheel block. Now, it's very important that you get the configuration correct on a pinwheel block. So for us, again, this is why we needed a higher contrast. So we're going to take our 4 blocks. I'm going to have my dark like that. It's just a 4 patch now. My light is here. My dark is here. And then my dark is here. Now I'm going to take a picture of that so you can see. Look at that. A lovely pinwheel. Very, very easy to get it confused, and you're like, oh no. So take a picture of that, maybe make a diagram, and there you want your pinwheel. Now we're going to sew this together. You're saying, well, that's a simple 4 patch, but right here, one intersection, right here, there are 8 seams. And if you don't do it properly, you're never going to get the point right. And if you don't, it's okay. But let's try to do it absolutely properly so we get a nice pinwheel point. I've taken my pinwheel off my design board, and I'm going to take my top 2 units right here, okay? Now, what you're going to do is, of course, you're going to put pretty side to pretty side. Now, because we've ironed these units a different way, the seams together here are going to nest. You see that? One dark is going that way, and the other is going that way. So you're going to nest those seams together there, okay? You're going to just nest that seam. And as you see, we have a dog ear here, okay? We have a dog ear out there. The dog ear here is very important, right? We're going to maybe turn that over. I'm going to stitch it on this side because I want to start with my dog ear up there. And I can see that those seams are nested together, and that's what's going to make our lovely point. So I'm going to just put my needle down in that intersection there where the dog ear is, scratch these together, and very carefully from that point, that's my 1/4 inch seam. We want to have a 1/4 inch seam right in the middle. Pinch and pull. Don't cut off our dog ears yet. I'm going to open that up. And as you see, I have a perfect 1/4 inch. I have a perfect 1/4 inch there. Now I'm just going to not touch that for now. I'm going to do my bottom row. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to just sort of match that seam. I'm going to match the dark. Nest it. There's my 1/4 inch dog ear up there. Scratch them together. I'm going to put my needle down right in that dog ear, right there. And start my 1/4 inch. And right off. Pinch and pull. Hopefully I'll have a 1/4 inch. There I do. So now the trick is to make this block really sing, we're going to go over and we're going to iron it. As it's come off of my sewing machine, I'm going to then set the seam, set my center seam, which I've just sewn. I'm going to set this one, but for the first time, you're going to turn these over, and we're going to iron the center seam open. Okay, now what I like to do is I like to give it a little bit of a spritz to really relax the fibers. I'll do one at a time. Really, really relax those fibers and just sort of spread them out nicely. And then with my finger, I'm just going to open this seam up here. The reason I'm doing this is because at this juncture right here, we're going to have 8 seams. So if one's pushed one way and one's the other way, I don't know, the chances of you not matching them are pretty high, and your pinwheel point won't come together well. So I do open up this seam on a pinwheel block. And as you see, I still have my dog ears, don't worry about that. I press from the inside, and then I turn it over. And as you can see, I have a beautiful 1/4 inch from here to here on the top unit, okay? Put that aside. And then this is my bottom, and again, I'm just going to give it a little spritz of water. Just pull them apart gently. And then with my finger, nudge that seam open. I do find it easier if it's a little bit damp. And there we go, push that up there. Just take your time and press or iron or whatever it is you're doing. There's so many rules like do not iron in quilting. I iron. It always works out well. I think it's just there's a whole science about you're stretching the fibers and oh my word, and I'm like, oh, come on. There's a seam, and my blocks turn out well. But the whole thing is, whether you're ironing or pressing, is to do it really well. And then again, I'll turn that over, do it on the other side, and there. is a beautiful 1/4 inch seam. So now, simple 4-patch, right? But what we're going to do, we're going to have this seam, this seam, this seam, that seam, that seam, and that seam all come together. So we're going to put the right sides together, the pretty sides together, and this is where they don't nest, they match, okay? What you're going to find, you're going to find you have right there sort of 2 triangles. The point there where the 1/4 inch and the point there where the 1/4 inch, okay? What you want to do is you're going to match that. Find that point on each side, and that is where you want to stitch, okay? We've cut these and sewn them very well, and we're going to then I'm keeping my dog ears. I'm going to match those 2 little points right there, and that is where my stitching is going to go. So I'm going to go back to my machine. So hopefully I'm going to start a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to start a 1/4 inch at the top, go very slowly. I'm going to put those 2 points together where the 1/4 inch is, right here, right there. So just scratch these together. Go slowly. And again, it's when I come to it, you don't want to stitch right on top of the point. You want to stitch one thread to the outside of our block over here, because we want to allow for the turning of the point of the fabric. You can hear that needle punching through my seams there, and a 1/4 inch. You're not pulling anything, you're not stretching anything. Pinch and pull, trim, and then we open up our block, and there is a perfect intersected pinwheel right there. But if you can feel it, if you can imagine, there's a lot of lump of fabric. So what I am going to do right now is I'm going to now trim away this dog ear, trim away that dog ear, just get rid of some of the bulk, trim away that dog ear. Okay, now we're going to go back. We're going to go back. Don't worry about these outside dog ears. We're going to go back, and we're going to do the exact same thing. We are going to press that center seam open. Off of our sewing machine, set that seam, set those seams beautifully, that center seam there, and then open up, and then again, we've not done this before on a 4-patch. I'm just going to spritz that with some water to relax those fibers. And then again, with my fingers, I'm just going to gently start nudging this center seam open. Takes some doing, but you'll get a perfect block. And again, it's a lot of seams, that's a lot of fabric right there. That's why I just press it open. Do 1/2 there, beautiful, and then I'll turn it. And I'll just relax and open up that center seam. You could press this to one side if you wanted, but I do find that it just lays a lot flatter. And there you go. There you go. So there is my lovely pinwheel block. Now let me see. Hopefully it's slightly big, and then I can trim it off. But my pinwheel, if you can see that, my pinwheel seam is just about perfect. Just about perfect. So now I'll come over, and hopefully I'll have a ta-da moment. And yes, it's a little bit big, just a little bit big on all sides. So I put my 3 1/4 there and my 3 1/4 there, so I'm nice and centered. And then I'm going to trim off all 4 sides, hopefully. Okay, now I'm going to trim off these 2 edges here. That's nice. That's nice. Trim off there. Trim off there. And there, oops, there is a perfect pinwheel block. Very important, fairly simple, but if you don't get your 1/4 inch right, and if you don't press your seams properly, you're going to get a lump here. You're going to get a lump there, and it's not very nice. And you'll be discouraged, but it's easy to make a perfect pinwheel block. A pinwheel block makes a beautiful quilt just all on its own. You can just make a ton of these. And again, I do like the fact that I have high contrast for this block. You see the pinwheel. So, I had a ta-da moment. It's a very easy block this week. So, I hope you are enjoying this. There's my lovely block. I'm going to finish up now, and as always, love from the Trueloves. All right, bye, folks.